Exumbra in veritate. In veritate.
Welcome back to Christian Tradition. Last week we covered the Bible and tradition. I was going to cover the sacraments in one video, but that would have been 45 minutes, so instead I'm going to break it down into parts. We've looked at the authority, we've mapped the kingdom's laws, but now we have to address the most common objection in the entire file. Why the stuff? Critics often criticise the Catholic Church and see water, oil, bread and wine, and they call it superstition. They argue that because God is spirit, he doesn't need physical media to reach your soul. They suggest that true faith is purely internal and intellectual. But an order to the King's Records reveals a very different protocol. We aren't just ghosts in the machine, we are body-soul composites. If the King wanted to save us as disembodied spirits, he wouldn't have bothered creating a physical universe. Instead, from the first second of Genesis, the pattern is set. God uses matter to deliver mercy. In the Old Testament, God's grace is frequently travelled through conductors. Consider the case of Naaman, a commander with leprosy, who sought out the prophet Elisha. Elisha didn't just say a prayer from his balcony, he gave a physical commandment. Go wash in the Jordan 7 times. Naaman was furious. He thought it was beneath the dignity of God to use a muddy river. But the record is clear. When he finally obeyed the physical sign, he received the supernatural result. The water didn't have the power. The authorized command attached to the water did. This pattern continues through the very bones of the prophets. When a dead man's body touched the bones of Elisha in his tomb, the man sprang back to life, and that's in 2 Kings 13:21. God didn't bypass the physical remains, he used them as vessels for his life-giving power. When the king himself stepped into the frame in the New Testament, he didn't abandon the physical signal, he intensified it. At the wedding in Cana, Jesus performed his first sign. He could have simply just magicked the wine into existence from nothing. Instead, he ordered the servants to fill 6 stone water jars with water. He used human labour in physical vessels as the starting point for his miracle. When healing the sick, he almost always used a physical point of contact. Take the deaf man in Mark 7. Jesus didn't just speak a word, he put his fingers into the man's ears and after spitting, touched the man's tongue. Then we have the blind man in John 9. He spat on the ground, he made mud with the saliva and he rubbed it into the man's eyes. Then Jesus restored the ear in Luke 22. Even in the chaos of his arrest, when Peter cut off the ear of a high priest's servant, Jesus doesn't will it back. He physically touched the ear to heal it. In every instance, the king is using the dust of the earth, the same stuff he used to make Adam, to recreate and restore. Perhaps the most striking evidence is the king's power was so incarnational that it leaked into his clothes. When the woman with the issue of blood touched the fringe of his cloak, she was healed instantly. Jesus didn't say she was healed because of a mental realization. He said, I perceived that power had gone forth from me. It was a physical transfer of grace through a physical object. This wasn't a one-off event. At Gennesaret, the crowds laid the sick in the marketplace and begged to touch even the fringe of his garment, and all who touched it were made well. You see Mark 6:56. The signal didn't stop when Jesus ascended. In the book of Acts, we read that people were healed by Peter's shadow passing over them, or by touching handkerchiefs and aprons that had been handled by Paul. It's in Acts 19:12. Does a shadow have magical properties? Is there magic in Paul's laundry? No, but there is authorized grace. These physical signs are the King's points of contact. They are the forensic proof that a sacrament is simply the King taking the physical stuff of his creation and using it as a vessel for his uncreated life. Next time, we'll be looking at baptism. Please like, please share, please subscribe, hit the notification down below and comment. May God bless you and guide you.
Amen.